Welcome to the channel, friends. So today's project will be a destructor review on this right here. This is an OPD propane fill valve. So this is a non-serviceable valve, so we're gonna have some fun and take it apart and see how it works since we can't use it anymore. So if this is something that's gonna interest you, stay tuned and I hope you enjoy the video. All right, so welcome back. We are going to go over now the OPD valve. We're going to start on just the exterior kind of features of it. Go over its normal function. So this is an overpressure device, basically, to prevent the propane from overfilling. It is set with this float to 20 pounds of propane, but this float is not as accurate as this dip tube, but we'll get into that. So we have your knob, which opens and closes the valve. You know, you got your internal thread. It's a finer thread versus the outside, which is for that quick disconnect kind of thread coupling. In here you have the receiving end of all your apparatus, where your hoses and things, where the fitting goes. There's a rubber seal in here. This one's kind of nasty. There's dirt on it and stuff because the tank was left outside. But this is an actual plunger. So when you put the fitting in here, it will press down on the inside here and open up the valve. So that means even when this thing is opened all the way, if you don't have anything connected to this, it's not going to purge out or bleed the propane out of the tank. So it is built to keep the propane in the tank when it's not hooked up. So here we have the purge screw. So normally this is shut all the way and closed. And normally when you have it refilled, the technician will go and open this up to allow the excessive pressure that's building in the tank to release. And once the tank is full, it will pour out of this little weep hole here, and that's how they know the tank is full, because the propane comes up and comes up this dip tube, and once it hits that dip tube, it comes out this weep hole. So that's how they know the tank is full. It's a more accurate way than the float, because the float can be busted off or it can be misadjusted like it is here possibly. This brass stem here is bent. So I'm not sure if that's, calibrated for what, but this here is more precise because it's a set length and it doesn't move around. And like I said, it's connected to this weep hole. Back here is the release safety. So this is going to release pressure if it ever were to expand to the point where everything inside the tank is built up such a pressure that it has to overpressure, and then it will spray out here. This is the port that it does that. And that's also able to come apart. So we're going to take that apart. This is the dip tube, if I haven't said that already. This is like the plastic stem that comes down that attaches to the float. There's kind of like a check valve in there, there's actually like a plastic BB on the inside here. You really can't see it. When I rip this thing apart, we'll check it out. But from the outside, it doesn't look too bad. The packing nut here is pinned in place. Some of them will have like a brass bar that's like hammered in and it's bent around the stem, which makes it impossible for you to back off this packing nut or to tighten it or whatever. So normally you don't have to service these. If you do, you have just replace the whole valve. They don't want you messing with these things at all because of the nature of propane. So this one's pinned. We're gonna just pull that out coming up soon. But yeah, that's pretty much the function of the OPD valve. It's for safety. And it's very important for you to have one of these on your tank. So let's just start taking things apart. Let's start with the handle. This screw right here is staked in place in 3 places, so it's going to be hard for it to back out. You just will have to crank on it till it comes out. Alright, so maybe we'll drill that out if I have to. I really don't care about this valve. Like I said, it's going to be trash, so I like taking things apart and to see how they function and see what kind of parts they have in them, you know? You never know what you could reuse. So this dip tube, this stem, can all come apart just like that. Now this brass stem can bend just like that. So like I said, it's probably not the most accurate way of metering the propane because these can break. This can get a hole in it somehow and degrade over time. But let's go ahead and try to separate this. Looks like there's like an O-ring in there. Alright, so I cracked open the housing and we had this little check valve kind of needle at the bottom of this where it makes contact and rides in this cam right here. So it was sitting here just like that. Then it had this spring right on top of it, just like so. And then this came down on top. So this has a little plunger in it as well. As you can see, it's got 2 O-rings on it. Actually 3. There's one there, a smaller one, then there's one in the middle, and then it's got a skirt type O-ring around the bottom. Very interesting. So that rides up and down. So when this rides up, it puts pressure upwards with that cam action on this piece of copper. It puts upward pressure and then it creates a seal along the top here. So that's kind of a simple design. It's like a black ABS plastic, tapered thread on the end of this. So that's that part. That was pretty simple. Not too many parts to that. Let's take a look at this valve now. Now let's go ahead and take this safety release out where it relieves the pressure if it were to ever overpressurize. Alright, so that's also staked in place. It's staked right there along the OD of the valve, so that's going to be hard to come out. Going to have to grind a couple of reliefs in that to remove that. So we'll come back to that. What's next? Let's try to take off this pin here, this blind pin. Alright, so as you can see, I have no patience, and I went ahead with the angle grinder and I made a bunch of relief cuts all over the valve to remove all the different components. This was that like pin that was right here. I cut that right out. I also did remove the circlip or the C-clip, whatever you want to call it, from the inside of here to hopefully remove the internals here on the inside. This stuff is all freed up now, and let's just start taking stuff out. This is that purge screw. I ground away the stake marks in it, and now we can expose it. And it's got like a little nylon tip on there. If you can see that. Small nylon tip on that screw provides a seal on the inside of the valve, which is just a small orifice at the very bottom of that cone. So we have that. What else? I guess it says made in Luxembourg right here on the side of the valve. 375 psi. Got 3 stars here. What else? We have markings on here. UL listed. We got the R mark with a circle around it. There was a plus mark right here, or addition mark, whatever you want to call it. This says do not adjust on the outside here. This says something else. DT 3.8, whatever that means. Alright, so let's just continue taking it apart. So let's take out whatever is easier. This is that safety release. There's a spring in there that's all broken. Some kind of plastic cup to hold the spring. And the back side of that is a seal. Looks like a rubber seal on that. The inside is a through hole at the very bottom that goes right down into this cavity here, into this through hole down the middle. There is a little seat down there for this to make contact and to seal in the normal position, a normal operating position. So that's pretty simple. It's just a threaded bore. What else do we have? Let's see if we can pull this tube out. No, it's cemented in there pretty good. All right, next will be, let's see if we can pull this out. Okay. Wrong way. There we go. Reverse thread on this. So, what do we have here? We'll come back to that. It's like a brass lock washer. looks like some kind of like split ring washer in here that's like expanded to the point where you can't get it out. I'm gonna sure like hell try. So give me a few minutes and I'll get that sucker out. Alright, so I finally gave in and I made another big relief cut here because these parts were not coming out. They don't want you taking this stuff apart whatsoever. Wow, this is very tough to take apart. All right, so I had to really open this thing up because this component here, where the receiving end of the fitting goes, would not come apart. It is entrapped in there, so I went ahead and just split this thing wide open. That way I can pull everything out, and here is that rubber seal. We'll just start picking this out little by little. There's a big copper spring in there. Let's get those pieces out first. Then you have the plunger assembly. Still wants to not come out. That's part of the spring. Oh, that's why. There's a damn bolt in there. There we go. There's a brass bolt holding it all together. There's a cutaway of the housing, the plunger housing. And that's it for parts. I mean, this thing is wide open now. You can see how it feeds through. There's a hole down at the bottom, an orifice that leads to this chamber here, to this bore. This is where the main seal goes. So the main seal is right here. This is what the valve. So this is what the handle attaches to. And then that goes right on top of this, just like so. You have two O-ring seals here, and there's a nylon seal at the very bottom. That's the main seal. And this, when you turn the handle, operates this seal up and down on the tank valve. And that's what creates your seal. So it's really interesting seeing these things all blown apart and in different, pieces. You really understand what's going on now. This thing is just wide open. I learned a lot about OPD valves, that's for sure. Well, guys, that's it for today. I really hope you enjoyed the video. And if you have any questions or comments, please place them right down below. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please go ahead and do so. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.